Welcome back to Rapture Tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and get ready for another story you won't forget. Let's dive back to the story. Evelyn Harper learned early that loneliness could exist even in luxury. The mansion she shared with Nathan Cole was filled with expensive silence, rooms echoing with footsteps but devoid of warmth. Nathan's world revolved around meetings, acquisitions, and status, while Evelyn's revolved around waiting for him to come home, to notice her, to ask how her day went. Instead, he treated her like a well-dressed shadow, useful only when appearances demanded a perfect wife by his side. At night, Evelyn would lie awake beside him, staring at the ceiling while Nathan scrolled through his phone, replying to emails with more affection than he ever showed her. When she tried to speak about their distance, he dismissed her gently but cruelly, saying stress made him distant, that she should understand. Slowly, her voice shrank. She stopped asking questions. She stopped expecting tenderness. The deepest wound came unspoken, their childlessness. Nathan never said outright at first, but his sighs lingered too long. Whenever babies were mentioned, his jokes cut sharper each time. Evelyn felt herself shrinking under the weight of blame she never earned, unaware that this quiet cruelty was only the beginning. Nathan Cole convinced himself he deserved more admiration, more excitement, more validation than Evelyn's quiet loyalty offered. That was when Veronica Hale entered his life, confident, sharp-tongued, and intoxicatingly attentive. She knew exactly how to make Nathan feel powerful, laughing at his jokes, praising his ambition, feeding the resentment he barely admitted he carried toward his wife. Veronica never rushed the affair. She positioned herself as understanding, as different. She listened when Nathan complained about Evelyn's coldness, subtly reinforcing his belief that he was trapped in a disappointing marriage. Each meeting pushed him further away from home. Each lie came easier. Evelyn noticed the late nights, the perfume that wasn't hers, the sudden hostility when she asked questions. When Nathan finally looked at Evelyn with open disdain, she knew something had shattered. He accused her of holding him back, of failing as a wife. When he said, "You were never enough," the words landed like a verdict. Evelyn still didn't know about Veronica, but she felt another woman's presence in every cold glance. The divorce papers arrived without warning. Nathan didn't sit her down or explain. He simply placed the documents on the counter and told her to sign. His voice was calm, rehearsed. He blamed incompatibility, infertility, and emotional exhaustion. When Evelyn asked if there was someone else, he laughed softly and said she was paranoid. Within weeks, her life unraveled. Nathan's lawyer stripped her of everything. No house, no savings, no dignity. She packed her belongings into 2 suitcases while Nathan watched without emotion. He told her she should be grateful he didn't fight harder. The doors closed behind her, and just like that, 15 years vanished. Evelyn walked away with nowhere to go. Friends avoided her. Family ties were distant. Nights turned brutal, days unbearable. Eventually, exhaustion claimed her. She collapsed outside a high-rise during a snowstorm, her body shaking as the city moved on without noticing. Jonathan Kingsley wasn't supposed to notice her either. He was a man who avoided crowds, avoided attention, avoided pain. Yet that night, something made him stop. He saw Evelyn unconscious in the snow and ordered his driver to pull over. He carried her inside himself, ignoring the protests of security. Evelyn woke in warmth she didn't recognize. The room was quiet, dignified, safe. Jonathan spoke gently, asking nothing intrusive. He offered help without curiosity. As days passed, she learned he was wealthy, guarded, and deeply private. He didn't ask for her story, and she didn't offer it. Respect formed silently between them. Jonathan gave her space to heal. He arranged medical care, clothes, and eventually worked within his household. Evelyn regained her dignity piece by piece. Unaware she had stepped into the life of a man whose shadow reached far beyond the walls she now lived in. Living under Jonathan's roof changed Evelyn. For the first time in years, she was treated like a human being. Jonathan listened. He noticed her moods, her silences, her strength. Their conversations were careful but sincere, built on shared pain neither fully revealed. Evelyn began working again, finding pride in independence. She laughed more. She slept better. Jonathan, in turn, found himself opening up, drawn to her resilience. He never told her about the pressure mounting around him, calls urging him to run for office, to step into power he never wanted. What they shared was quiet and profound. No promises, No manipulation. Just two broken people rebuilding. When Jonathan realized his feelings ran deeper, he also knew the danger of dragging Evelyn into a life of scrutiny and politics. Still, fate was already in motion. The day Evelyn saved a child, everything changed. During a protest near Jonathan's building, chaos erupted. A child was pushed into traffic, and without thinking, Evelyn ran forward, pulling the boy to safety moments before impact. Cameras captured everything. Her courage went viral overnight. Jonathan watched the footage in silence. The world was about to discover her, and by extension, him. He realized he could no longer protect Evelyn by hiding. Instead, he chose honesty. In a quiet ceremony, away from cameras, he married her. Evelyn didn't know the full weight of what that meant yet, but she trusted him. As Jonathan prepared to announce his candidacy, Evelyn sensed the ground shifting. Love had found her again, but with it came a storm she could never have imagined. Veronica Hale saw Evelyn's face on the news and froze. Recognition burned into obsession. The woman Nathan discarded was back, stronger, admired, visible. Veronica's carefully built world began to crack. Her fake pregnancy was failing. Nathan was growing distant. Panic turned to rage. She followed Evelyn's movements, learning everything. When she discovered Evelyn was now Jonathan Kingsley's wife, jealousy curdled into desperation. Veronica convinced herself Evelyn had stolen the life meant for her. The gala invitation became her opportunity. That night, Veronica watched Evelyn laugh among elites and decided she wouldn't leave alive. The gala glittered with power and deception. Evelyn felt unwell but dismissed it as exhaustion. Veronica approached with a smile, offering a drink laced with poison. Moments after sipping it, Evelyn collapsed. Chaos followed. Jonathan's security reacted instantly. Surveillance captured everything: Veronica's actions, her expression, her panic. Evelyn was rushed to the hospital. Doctors stabilized her just in time. Veronica was arrested publicly. Nathan's involvement surfaced. Careers collapsed overnight. The scandal consumed the nation. Jonathan stood before the country days later and told the truth. Evelyn was his wife. She was pregnant. The nation watched in shock and admiration. Months later, Evelyn gave birth to Grace Kingsley. Holding her daughter, Evelyn understood the full circle of her journey. When Nathan tried to apologize, she felt nothing. Peace had replaced pain. She stood beside Jonathan at his inauguration, no longer invisible, finally whole. Evelyn's recovery became a national fixation, but inside the hospital room, life moved slowly. Machines hummed while Jonathan sat beside her, holding her hand as if anchoring himself to the present. Doctors spoke in careful tones about the poison, about timing and miracles. Evelyn drifted between sleep and wakefulness, her body weak but her spirit stubbornly alive. When she finally opened her eyes fully, Jonathan was there, eyes rimmed red from exhaustion. He didn't speak at first. He only pressed his forehead to her hand, breathing as though he'd been holding it for days. Evelyn understood then how deeply she was loved, not for what she represented, but for who she was. News leaked despite attempts at privacy. The public learned she had survived an assassination attempt. Sympathy surged, but Evelyn focused inward, sensing a fragile new life within her and drawing strength from it. Veronica Hale's arrest unfolded without mercy. Cameras captured her rage, her denial, her collapse as evidence stacked against her. Former allies vanished overnight. Contracts were canceled, statements withdrawn, and her carefully crafted image disintegrated in real time. She screamed about betrayal, about injustice, but the footage told a colder truth. Nathan Cole tried to distance himself, issuing statements filled with hollow regret. Investigators uncovered messages, financial transfers, and calculated lies. Though he avoided prison, his reputation was ruined. Clients fled. Invitations stopped. Silence replaced the applause he once craved. Veronica watched from a holding cell as the world moved on without her. For the first time, she felt invisible, the same invisibility she had once weaponized against others. Evelyn returned home changed. Security surrounded her now, but she felt calmer than ever. Jonathan encouraged rest, yet she insisted on reclaiming normalcy, reading, walking, breathing freely. Pregnancy softened her fears and sharpened her resolve. She wanted her child to inherit strength, not trauma. Jonathan struggled with guilt, questioning whether his life had endangered her. Evelyn reminded him that cruelty existed regardless of power, and survival was not something to apologize for. Their bond deepened, shaped by honesty rather than protection. Behind closed doors, they prepared for a public life together, aware that love would now be tested by scrutiny rather than secrecy. Jonathan announced his candidacy with measured conviction. The nation listened differently now. His policies mattered, but so did his story. Evelyn stood beside him, not smiling for cameras, but grounded in her truth. She refused stylist attempts to reshape her into something ornamental. Critics searched for weakness and found resilience instead. Evelyn spoke rarely, but when she did, her words carried weight. She talked about dignity, about quiet suffering, about second chances earned rather than given. Support grew, not because of spectacle, but because people recognized themselves in her endurance. The pregnancy was not easy. Evelyn endured complications, sleepless nights, and waves of fear she didn't always voice. Jonathan attended every appointment, learning patience in ways power had never taught him. During one difficult night, Evelyn admitted she feared losing everything again. Jonathan promised, not with grand speeches, but with presence. He stayed. Always. Their love became less about passion and more about partnership, steady and unbreakable under pressure. Nathan attempted contact through intermediaries, then letters. Evelyn read none of them. She understood apology could not rewrite history. Forgiveness, if it came, would be private, not owed. When Nathan appeared uninvited at a public event, security intervened. Evelyn caught his eyes across the room and felt only distance. The past no longer had teeth. Nathan left quietly, finally understanding that some doors close without ceremony. Labor began unexpectedly. Evelyn's strength was tested one final time. Hours stretched endlessly as Jonathan stayed by her side, terrified yet steadfast. When Grace Kingsley was born, the room filled with silence heavier than any applause. Evelyn held her daughter and felt years of pain loosen their grip. Grace cried loudly, alive and undeniable. In that moment, Evelyn knew survival was not her greatest victory. Love was. Motherhood grounded Evelyn in ways nothing else had. Public life paused briefly as she learned her daughter's rhythms, her own capacity for patience and wonder. Jonathan balanced leadership and fatherhood, discovering humility in midnight feedings and quiet mornings. Power no longer defined him. Responsibility did. Together, they built a family rooted in gentleness rather than ambition. The inauguration arrived cold and bright. Crowds gathered, flags waving, history unfolding. Evelyn dressed simply, refusing extravagance. Grace slept in her arms, unaware of the moment she symbolized. As Jonathan took the oath, he glanced at Evelyn, not for reassurance, but recognition. She had walked through fire and emerged whole. The nation saw not perfection, but authenticity. Later, away from cameras, Evelyn stood alone briefly, reflecting on the road behind her. Betrayal had broken her, but not ended her. Love had found her when she stopped begging for it. Jonathan joined her, and together they watched Grace stir. The future felt uncertain, but no longer frightening. Evelyn smiled, knowing peace was not something given by circumstance, but claimed through survival, choice, and grace. That's all for today. Like, subscribe, and see you in the next episode. Stay tuned.